All right, so I'm going to keep working on 1.9. So 1.9 continued. I want to work through an example. And specifically, this example is going to work on converting 2 units. And a conversion factor. And then using the new conversion factor. So let's let's get the example. Let's say that an ostrich, kind of funny looking bird, an ostrich can travel, basically can run, say, 60 miles per hour. What is this speed? In kilometers per second. How long does it take to travel? Let's say 50 meters. So the first question of what is this speed in kilometers per second, that's going to be involving converting 2 units in a conversion factor. And then the second question of how long does it take to travel that, then we're going to use our new conversion factor. Okay, so this is kind of a two-step question. So we have kind of the first portion, and then we have our second question. All right, so our first portion here, we have our 60 miles per hour. Or a better way to write this so that we can kind of start to see our units is we have 60 miles per 1 hour. The important thing here now is we're starting to separate. We have miles in the top and hours in the bottom. The other thing to note is that whenever we have 2 units and we have something per something, the value on the bottom has a 1 associated with it. So it's 60 miles per 1 hour. And we want to convert this into our kilometers per second. Okay, remember this is 2 units. We have kilometers per second, so that's going to be per 1 second. So we're basically looking for this top number. Okay, so we're going to have to do 2 different conversions. Okay, we're going to have to, first of all, grab one more color here. We want to convert our miles to kilometers. And our next conversion, we also want to convert our hours to seconds. Okay. Now we have 2 options for this first conversion. We can either do this in one step, okay, do both the miles to kilometers and do the hours to seconds. Okay, we can do that all in one step, or we can do this in 2 steps. Okay. So I'm going to try and kind of keep this color coded. So we can do it in 1 step, or we can do this in 2 steps. Okay, and again, this is still just the first question. So this is a two-part question, but I'm still not addressing the second part. I'm just saying in the first question, there's two different ways to calculate that. So we can do it in one step, or we can do it in two steps. We can do the miles to kilometers. Then we can do the hours to the seconds. And then we can basically put that together. For some of you out there, the one step is going to be easy. You're going to be able to see it. You're going to like the one step. For some of you, two steps is better. So I'm going to show you both ways to calculate it. Okay. First off, I'll start with the two steps. Okay. And then I'll go back up and show you the one step. So the two step, okay, we want to first convert from miles to kilometers. So we're going to start with our value given. We have our 60 miles. We want to set up our railroad. And we want to see what equality we have available. Okay, hopefully we have one between miles and kilometers. So an easy way to consult is to look at that table that we talked about that had some equalities there. We're looking at a distance of length here. Okay. Over on the right-hand side, we have kilometers and we have miles. Perfect. So we can do it in one step. So we want to go from miles to kilometers. Miles is in the numerator, so we put miles in the denominator. We're trying to convert to kilometers. So it goes up top. We put our 1 with the kilometer, our 0.621 for our miles. We grab our calculator. We have 60 times 1 divided by 0.621. Okay, again, times 1, don't really have to do that, but I'm just showing you how that calculation works. And we get 96.61835. Now, normally I'd be worried about sig figs, okay? But what we want to do is cut off our sig figs at the very end of our calculation. Okay, that's how your book does calculations. That's how Sapling Online will do the calculations, is you want to cut sig figs off at the end of a value. So I just took 4 sig figs. That's plenty. That's more than we'll need. So we have 96.62 kilometers. And that's the first step of the two-step process. Okay, our second one, we want to go from hours to seconds. So we're going to take our value for our hours. We have 1 hour. And we want to convert it to our seconds to figure out how many seconds that is. So we have 1 hour. Set up our conversion table. Again, the time is on here if you'd like it. These are standard times. You probably have that memorized already. So I'm going to go from hours to minutes, and then minutes to seconds. Okay, and remember I put hours down on the bottom so that those two cancel. Minutes up top so that I can say in 1 hour there's 60 minutes. Then minutes went down in the denominator so that those cancel. Seconds up top. So in 1 minute we have 60 seconds. And this will end up to 3,600 seconds. All right. Now what we want to do is we want to put those together. Okay, remember we want units of kilometers per second. So my last step is I'm going to take my 96.62 kilometers, divide that by my 3,600 seconds. So 96.62 divided by 3,600. And I get 0.0268 kilometers per second. Now it's okay to cut off our sig figs. So how many sig figs do I have? Remember, we want to go back to our starting values. So how many sig figs in my 60 miles? Remember that there's no decimal there. So I only have one sig fig. Okay, that 6 is significant. So I want to rewrite this as 0.03. I had to round up my 2 because there was a 6 to the right of it. We have kilometers per second. All right, so that's the two-step way. We can do this all in one. Okay, so if this works for you, stick with it. Okay? The one step is just, it's a little bit quicker because you're only doing one step calculation. You're doing it all in one. So what we want to do is start with our 60 miles per 1 hour. So we have 60 miles. Set up our railroad, and that's per 1 hour. So I'll do my first conversion. We want to go from miles to kilometers. So my miles go on the bottom, kilometers up top. I'm going to use the same conversion that we used here. Hasn't changed. 1 kilometer, 0.621 miles. So my miles cancel. You can show that. And then I'm left with my kilometers there. Now I want to convert my hours to seconds. My hours are in the denominator now, so I want to put those in the numerator so that they cancel. And I'll first convert to minutes. Then I want to go from minutes to seconds. And again, my minutes were in the denominator, so I put minutes up in the numerator so that those cancel. And then I put my seconds down in the denominator. Okay, now I just fill in my qualities. For every 1 hour, we have 60 minutes. For 1 minute, we have 60 seconds. As far as units go, my hours in the denominator are canceled by the ones in the numerator. I have minutes up the top, minutes down at the bottom, so I'm left with kilometers. Or excuse me, left with seconds down in the bottom. Okay, so my only units that are left here, I have kilometers up top and seconds down in the bottom, which is what I'm after. So my value here that I get is going to be in kilometers per second. So we plug this into our calculator. So I have 60, okay, divided by my 1 hour, okay, times my 1 kilometer, divided by my 0.621 times 1 hour divided by 60 times 1 for my 1 minute divided by 60 seconds, and I get 0.026838433. I'm still looking for just one significant figure. So I have my 2 there. I have to round it up because there's a 6 next to it. So I have 0.03 kilometers per second. Another alternative to calculating this out, if you don't want to do the zigzag, you can multiply all of your values across, write down that value, multiply all of the numbers across the bottom, write that value down, and then divide the two numbers. That's also an option for you. All right, so we've answered our first question. What is this speed in kilometers per second? Doesn't matter which way you do it, if you break it into 2 steps or keep it in 1, you get the same answer. So let's now use this conversion factor that we've now calculated to answer the second question of how long does it take to travel 50 meters. So this is now our part 2. we want to know how long to travel 50 meters. So we are now going to use our 0.03 kilometers per second as a conversion factor. So in order to do that, remember, we don't want to start a calculation with a conversion factor. So we don't start with this value. We want to start with something given. So start with number given, not conversion factor. You are more likely to get your units mixed up if you start with a conversion factor. So we want to start with our 50 meters. So we'll set up our conversion factor here. We know that we can convert between kilometers and seconds. Okay, we're looking for how long, so we're looking for a time. So our seconds are going to be the unit that we want to end up with. Okay. And we can convert between seconds and kilometers. So as long as we get this value converted to kilometers, we can use our calculated conversion factor. Okay. So the question is, how do we get from meters to kilometers? Meters is a base unit. Kilometers, we have our prefix plus our base unit. So this is just going to be a metric conversion. So we can convert from meters to kilometers. And remember, when we do this, we want to put the 1 with the prefix. So my 1 goes with the kilometer. Then we replace and put the number down below of what that prefix is worth. So a kilometer is 10 to the 3. Remember, so we have 1 kilometer is equal to 10 to the 3 meters. Now our meters cancel. We have kilometers now. Now we can use our conversion factor here to convert from kilometers to seconds. Kilometers is up in the numerator. So we're going to put kilometers down below so that those units cancel. To use this conversion factor, it's relating kilometers or kilometers to seconds. So we put our seconds up top. And now we fill our values in. Now remember when we said we had our 2 units here? Whatever this number goes with the unit up top. The unit down below, remember, has that 1 associated with it. We know that this is 0.03 kilometers per 1 second. So the 0.03 goes with the kilometers. In this case, we're putting that number down in the numerator, or excuse me, the denominator, because we want to cancel out our kilometers. Then up top, we have our 1 to go with our seconds. So our kilometers cancel, and the units that we're left with, we have seconds, and they're in the numerator. That's what we're after. So we can plug this into our calculator. We have 50, okay, times 1 kilometer divided by 10 to the 3. Then we have times 1 second divided by our 0.03. So our calculator gives us this 1.66666666667. Okay, so 1.66667. That's our seconds. That's our calculator given answer. How many sig figs do we need in our answer? To do that, we look to the number that we start with. Okay. This has 1 significant figure, okay, that there's no decimal after the 0, so the 0 is not significant, just the 5 is. So we want 1 sig fig. which means that our answer scientifically is going to be 2 seconds.